That just landed on my arm.
Today on Gunbelievable, we're taking a look at the Bullpup9 from Bond Arms. That's right, it's a bullpup handgun. Invented by engineer Arne Boberg and released by Boberg Arms in 2011 as the XR9S, the design was later sold to Bond Arms, who renamed it, allegedly improved it, and still makes it today. This thing has about the same barrel length as a Glock 43, but look at how much shorter it is. By pulling cartridges backwards out of the magazine, then lifting them up as they feed, the barrel can extend over the magazine, giving it extra length without enlarging the slide. But that adds complexity and cost. This gun's nearly $1,000. Is it worth it? Let's find out. The Bullpup9 comes in your standard lunchbox style container. Inside, the first thing you'll see is this printout telling you to use Winchester White Box and not to use Blazer. Bit of a red flag. You'll also find the legally mandatory safety lock, 2 packets of lube, a catalog of Bond's other products, check out this cartoon on the first page, and the manual. The first page of the manual, after the safety rules, gives you a big lecture about the importance of using the right ammo. It lists several brands as approved, including Herder's, which their website now says is verboten. Ammo brands change their practices and their suppliers, so keeping this kind of thing up to date is always going to be challenging. The gun weighs just over 22 ounces, or 632 grams, when fully loaded to its 7+1 capacity. That's about the same as the 43. It's smaller and has no red dot, but its all-metal construction makes it denser. Picking it up, you'll notice how short it is. My trigger finger actually sticks out past the end of the barrel, but you'll also be struck by just how fat it is. It's 50% wider than the 43. The slide and frame aren't slim for an ultra-compact gun, and while the rosewood grips are lovely to look at, they are chunky. They have some texturing on the side, but the entire backstrap and most of the areas your hand is in contact with are totally smooth. There's a little texturing on the metal front strap, but it needs to be way more aggressive. This thing is positively slippery, with the only thing helping your grip being its fatness filling the hand. My fingers are thin, yet I'm really having to crunch them up to get my pinky above the magazine lip. Anyone with less spindly digits is not going to be able to get a pinky fully on board, and though the grip is wide, it still has a small circumference, leaving very little space free to connect my support hand to. Build quality seems extremely good. Fit and finish are excellent. It feels reassuringly solid, and every surface is well machined. Manipulating the slide is surprisingly easy. Despite it being small, the serrations give me enough purchase. The spring feels pretty light, and other than a hitch as it overcomes the hammer, the slide travels very smoothly. It's quite satisfying to manipulate. With the slide to the rear, you can see the thin recoil spring guide rod sticking out on the left side, unusual in both size and in placement. It doesn't lock open on an empty mag, and there's no conventional slide stop. You can manually lock it open by rotating the disassembly lever down, but because of the gun's unique feed system, dropping the slide on a loaded magazine will not load the chamber. You'll have to let it go home and then rack it again. There's no safety, so the only other controls are the trigger and the magazine release. The trigger is double action only. It's long and heavy at about 7.5 pounds, though fairly smooth. There's a hitch about halfway back and a more subtle one after that. No real wall, bit of over travel. The reset's just as long as the pull, though it also includes a short false reset here. If you're used to single action or striker-fired guns, you will not be pleased, but if you like double action, you'll probably think this trigger is decent, maybe even good. The release is small, but it's well placed, and although it's on the stiffer side, it feels good to actuate. Empty mags drop free, and so do mags with just 1 round, but mags loaded to 2 or more don't, and have to be removed by hand. Can't say I've seen that before. Speaking of magazines, you get 2 of them, and spares aren't too expensive at around $30. The gun pulls rounds out of the mag backwards, so you load them backwards, HK style, and the rims stick up. Weirdly, there's no follower. Guess it's not needed. IMFDB confidently says that the Bond Arms guns have mag followers, but that's wrong, so don't believe everything you read on the internet. Having no follower in the magazine frees up some space, but these still make you really cram rounds in. The last round is so tight that I wonder if reliability suffers when you shoot this fully topped off. In any case, it's a real shame that these aren't double stack. There are several guns on the market today that are both slimmer and way more capacious than this. The sights are a basic 3-dot arrangement, white on black. They're dovetailed and likely swappable, but there's no option for optics mounting, and probably won't ever be, as there's hardly any real estate back here for an optics cut and 2 different pin channels to avoid. Now let's take a look at the inside. Disassembly is easy. Clear the gun, then hold the slide to the rear and rotate this lever 180 degrees. The whole slide assembly glides neatly off the front. The lower of the gun isn't much to look at. You just have the rails, your trigger with a long linkage to the hammer at the back, and the lifter here. In the slide, that tiny little recoil spring and guide rod come out the back. They're oddly long, and definitely the thinnest I've ever seen. Admittedly, the hammer is also providing some resistance to the slide, but still, no wonder it's so easy to manipulate. The rotating barrel is paired with a sliding locking block that comes out like so, followed by the barrel itself. The real magic is in this claw at the back, which pivots down to grab the cartridge and yanks it backwards out of the magazine. Then, the lifter in the frame gets activated as the slide goes back, pushing the cartridge up into the extractor and in line with the barrel, where it can then go forward into the chamber. That strange mechanism is what makes the bullpup design possible. With the gun assembled, we can see it step by step. One popular definition of bullpup is a gun where the mag and breech are behind the trigger. This clearly meets that definition, but arguably, so do many pistols. On this SIG, here's the trigger, here's the magazine, and here's the breech. You can argue in the comments whether that counts or not. Because of the bullpup claw mechanism, when you rack this gun, you'll want to do so authoritatively. If you're just the slightest bit delicate with it, then hilarity ensues. Often, the round will get grabbed by the claw, but not lifted up by the lifter. So when the slide goes forward, it tries to push that round back into the magazine. If the mag is empty, it will slide back into the mag, but under the last spring coil, which then prevents it from feeding until you remove the mag and pull it out and fix it. If the mag's not empty, the round in the claw pushes against the next round in the mag and has nowhere to go, so now the gun's jammed. And here's where things get even more exciting. Let's say you start clearing the jam by removing the magazine. The slide goes forward, you rack it, round pops out of the chamber, so gun's clear, right? You might think so, but watch this. When the gun jammed, there was a round in the chamber, but also a second round on the claw. When I racked the slide, I got rid of the round in the chamber, but then the round in the claw replaced it. So you actually have to rack this thing twice to be sure it's empty. Yikes! Remember folks, always visually inspect the chamber several times when clearing a firearm. With so much mechanical complication, it's no wonder the original Boberg guns had a bad rep for reliability, and there's one infamous malfunction unique to the design, where as the cartridge got yanked backwards, it'd separate from the bullet, jamming the gun up badly and leaving the insides coated with a sprinkling of loose gunpowder. These Bond Arms guns are supposed to be less susceptible to that, but they still recommend using ammo brands known to have a tight crimp between the case mouth and the bullet. Let's go see if that happens on the range. From the first shot fired, there's no doubt. The Bullpup9 is punchy. Some folks say it recoils softly, but I disagree. It shoots like the micro-sized gun that it is, smacking you in the hand with every round. The only thing going for it is that wide grip, which distributes the load and takes the edge off. It's not painful, but it's decidedly unpleasant, and it's flippy as heck. Follow-up shots are not fast. Accuracy is subpar, due largely to ergonomics. The long, heavy trigger pull with no definite wall makes precision shots difficult, and when you're going faster, its weight makes it hard not to tense up your firing hand and jerk your shots one way or another. The sights are nothing special, and the short radius doesn't help either. Initially, this gun ran like a top. Both the recommended and non-recommended ammo gave me no issues. I drafted a script for this video where I said Bond Arms must have worked out all the kinks. But then suddenly, it turned on a dime. I started getting catastrophic malfunctions every few rounds with the same ammo brands that used to work. The slide would jam up so hard, I had to beat it against the bench to get it unstuck. Or, as you already saw, it'd eject live rounds and make me rack it again in the middle of a magazine. I emailed Bond Arms about this, and they said I should call in for an RMA. When I called, they were reluctant to do an RMA, suggesting instead that I try Federal brand ammo and check whether it might just be one bad magazine. So I headed back to the range with the two types of Federal I had on hand. The 124 grain Champion ammo fixed the slide locking up problem, but I'm still seeing live rounds get ejected, about once per magazine, often smacking me in the head. Since it happens with all three magazines, it's not a mag issue. And the 115 grain Federal Black Pack instantly gave me the malfunction these guns are infamous for, separating the case from the bullet and spraying my arms and face with gunpowder every single time. Never seen anything quite like it. I got in touch with Bond a third time, and an RMA is now in progress. I'll keep you all updated on how that goes. So who is this gun for? Well, the inventor was inspired by his dissatisfaction with the gun market of 2003. Back then, there were very few small carry guns, and their ultra-short barrels compromised ballistic performance. Had this been available then, it could have competed against J-frame revolvers and Kel-Tec P3ATs. But sadly, it only reached the market 8 years later, just before the S&W Shield started selling like hotcakes at less than half the price. And with the growth of appendix carry, short slides became less important for concealability. There was just never much time for this gun to fill a niche before getting out-competed. So if you love being able to say you own a bullpup pistol and you're content to try 20 different ammo varieties until you find one that sorta works, then this gun's for you. But otherwise, a finicky novelty at a 4-digit price is a tough sell. That's it from Gunbelievable on the Bond Arms Bullpup9. Smash that like button, be sure to subscribe. If I get 1 million subs, I'll make a bullpup revolver.